Alright, welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner Classic, Let's Known Classics. This is episode number 2073 and episode 1967. Excuse me, bad. Yeah, I had this one to make sure I didn't forget. So basically, we do this Comic Corner stuff like, yes, is the wrong Trigger Legend? That will be next. Don't worry about that. But here we got to talk about two Marvel trades. One is basically. Sorry about this. Stupid nose. Sorry about that. Hopefully this is fixed now. Okay. So we're talking about two different Marvel trades. First up is basically Bounty Hunters Volume 4 Crimson Reign. This is basically what the Bounty Hunter series was up to during the events of the main Crimson Reign book. Crimson Reign basically brought back, well, the Crimson Dawn from the movie Solo. Yep, brought him back. Yeah, after like a decade being on. LaQuire is, in case you're curious though, is she in this particular series? Does she make a guest appearance? No. And it's completely unknown if Darth Maul is still in charge, because that's never brought up here, because he's one who's basically the ruler of the organization. Now, of course, we still have Ethan Sack doing the writing here with Raymond Bucks, issues 1819. By the way, this book goes from 18 to 22, and the remaining issues, 2022, is done by Paolo Beniti. The cover art for the first issue is done by Gustavo Kamakali and Nathan Warwood. 19 is Edgar Darrow, and of course, Jesus Avertroff does basically issues 21 and 22. Doesn't say this issue, maybe it's a typo. So basically, Valance, basically, these issues deal with mostly his return to the Empire, where he's no longer a bounty hunter. He's basically an officer in the Imperial Navy. And by the way, LaQuire does put briefly here, be a hologram. Yep. So most will basically do is return, and well, him just doing whatever he wants. No bounty stuff for him to do, but there are bounty hunters for this book. I mean, the book has got bounty hunters for a reason. We have appearance by Bosk. Yep. And you might be asking, is he the only known? And probably even see a brief cameo of this. This chamber here, the Vader's in, it actually made his very first on-screen appearance in Empire Strikes Back. It never, I don't think it actually appeared in the original movie. It did appear in Empire Strikes Back. But you might be curious though, is there any bounty besides Boss pops up in here? Someone called Zakas. Not really familiar with this one. But it's like any other big name bounty hunters for this book. Well, no, not really. Actually, there's Degaroth. I think that's his name. Yeah, he also first appeared in Empire Strikes Back. Yep, along with Fett. And I mean, apparently, like, this guy. It looks like Lando, but I don't think his name's like twin sister name. Then she wakes up and she's in bed with another woman. Might be just sharing a bunk, but yeah. More dealing with stuff here related to the Bounty Hunters and the Crimson Dawn stuff. It's still pretty good here. It's still a good book. Give this book a 9 out of 10. I mean, it feels like at some point there seems like a lot of stuff going on here. It seems though it's more interesting with Valance a little bit than with anything else. So it's Boss comparing is an awesome plus. Next up, we actually have the death of Doctor Strange's companion. The companion book, this one here, is basically all the one-shots, the tiny to the main mini-series Dead Doctor Strange, which, of course, Doctor Strange gets killed off in that mini-series. This contains all the one-shots for, we have one-shots for Avengers, Spider-Man, White Fox, Blade, X-Men Black Knight, Bloodstone, Strange Academy, and that's it. Those are your issues here. The Avengers, now a lot of these books, you might be curious, are any of these books actually written by somebody who actually wrote the book at the time? Only one, and that's the Strange Academy book. That's written by Scotty Young. Yeah, he was the writer of the book at the time when Bertrand was in the artwork. But this book, Strange Academy Presents, we have Mike Del Mundo on the artwork. Interesting. The Avengers one shots with Alex Penkill and artwork by Ryan Boodum with Steve Surratt and Dave Stewart doing the cover artwork. The Strange Academy Presents, like, they have a lot of backup story artists. You have Bert Travis, obviously, Nico Henderson, Patch McKeel, Ed Guerrero, Alessandro Capaco, Gasol Dukes, C.F. Flux, David Bowen, Lucille Benito, and Natasha Bose. Jed McKay is the Spider one shot. I think at the time when this book was coming, he was actually wrapping on Black Hat, which, by the way, Black Hat does make a appearance in the book. We have White Fox one shot. Yeah, White Fox. If you're curious, though, aside from this one shot of this book, has she actually anything of her own since Marvel? Yes. Digital First stuff. Yep, she's the most confined Digital First stuff for reasons. My guess is because maybe Marvel doesn't have faith in the character to have an actual solo book published, because she's not as big of a character here. She's a character more brought over from South Korea, along with the Swordsman, who became Iron Fist, and Aro. Yeah, these are one of these South Korean heroes that maybe Marvel's South Korean branch must publish them, and they brought them over here, and they probably just don't have faith in them. The only reason why I Fox him a one-shot for this one was because basically she has a little magic with her. And you might be curious though, Alyssa Wong, is she the writer of the White Fox Digital First stuff? Yes, she is. In the case of X and Black Knight, that's actually written by Cy Spurrier, who actually wrote his. Now this one shot here is a follow-up to his miniseries, which I think is called Rise of the Blade, I believe it is. Which that miniseries revealed that Dan Waltman is actually a father. Which, yeah, the book basically is a follow-up to that. It just feels like a table to him and the X-Men, which is so awesome. Blade mostly has him working with Dracula, did with the whole thing with Doctor Strange. Bloodstone did do a lot of monster stuff for this one. Yeah, and there's also a thing here where they mentioned about Dan basically talking differently because of the helmet he wears. Yeah, the helmet never appeared prior to his miniseries he had. His second book he actually had of his own. Yeah, for some reason they gave him this helmet, and now apparently the helmet has changed his voice for reasons. It's basically treated here similar to how the helmet in Naboo treats Dr. Fate. Mostly, anyways. And apparently his codename for his daughter in the field is Sword, and his codename is Siege. And she says the reason why he does that is because he's mad at her for not calling him Dad. Yep, that is simply the reason for it. Now, you might be curious though, did Cersei, his ex-girlfriend, did she actually appear in his two solo books that he had in the last decade? Nope, never did. As a matter of fact, any solo book that Dan Waltman has actually had of his own, either his miniseries in the 90s, his brief ongoing series in 2015, or his miniseries a few years ago, Cersei never appeared. Yes, Cersei, whenever she shows up, a lot of the time is usually related, like in the last 20 years or so, usually for her, a lot of time for her, she usually most appears in stuff related to her own people, the Eternals. These one-shots are really good. None of them particularly quite bad. You might be curious, though. what is the strongest one shot in this book? Like, I definitely say the Spider-Man, the X-Men Black Knight one. That one's really good. I thoroughly enjoyed that one. I think a Spider-Man one is really good. Strange Academy is really good. Blade, I think, is probably the weakest one shot here. It's not terrible. It's not as strong as the other ones. I'd say it's probably Blade. White Fox, I definitely think it's up there. Yes. But thanks for doing this. I officially have gotten done the Death of Doctor Strange. It is interesting, though, Jeff McKay writes the one-shots because he writes the main miniseries, which later led to the Strange ongoing series, which, yes, you might be asking. Nick, have you heard that the Strange book's going to be ending relaunched as simply Doctor Strange? Yes, I have heard that. I'm happy Doctor Strange is coming back. Excuse me. I think the whole idea killing him off was not exactly a good idea. Especially at the time when they announced this miniseries that he was going to do the movie just really soon. And he didn't stay dead very long. He was dead maybe for about 4 or 5 months. And then he got resurrected in Strange, who will be the Harvest Man. But I'll give you more whenever Volume 2 comes out. And the thing with Doctor Strange is he's always been one of my personal favorite superheroes in comics. And since I bring comics, which only started back in 2004, the first time I ever saw an ongoing series published while I'm reading comics was Jason Aaron run. That was the very first run I actually saw. Because his previous run he had was published back in the 1990s. I wasn't reading back then because I was a little kid at that point in time. I didn't actually read comics until I was a teenager. I was roughly 16 at the time I started reading comics. I was still a fan of superheroes at that point in time. So, and of course, Doctor Strange was a character I had some interest in because I had heard about him. Now, what got me into some comic books, the first DVD, the first Spider-Man movie had this like section where you can read like description of all these really good comic books. There were all these Spider-Man villains. Yeah, that I've read that a lot, and I thought for a long time that I could get into comics, but I waited until after the second Spider-Man movie came out. That's when I got into comics. And of course, well, Spider-Man is basically been one of those characters I've been consistently reading now for, as this year, 19 years of reading Spider-Man and X-Men. And this is purely due to the fact that I have a lot of nostalgia related to reading these characters. Because first books I read from Marvel were Spider-Man and X-Men because I was more familiar with them. I did check out the other books Marvel. It took me, and it's taken me a long time. It took me about 10 years to basically read like almost every issue with a lot of these comics publishing since the 60s, like a long time. There's still some I haven't read everything for. Some I've been reviewing, but not all of them, per se. But I'm going to end it here because I've really got some other anime to work on. But Marvel Comics, in my opinion, has always been a good thing for me to read. I've never come across, I've come across some bad comics from them, but it doesn't happen very often. But in the case of killing him off, I think it was kind of a bad idea, but it was executed really well. I got Jim McKay. He basically, he looks like he's one of those writers who actually respects the work he's working on. Him along with, let's see, who's another one like this from him? Don Conis. I really enjoy his work too. He, of course, likes to keep all his books connected. Jim McKay does the same thing. Here's a few other really good writers. Some I have met, some I have not met. Charles Shaw. There is also, let's see, who else? Al Ewing. Kelly Thompson. Despite the fact she has a problem with basically, well, not necessarily, it's not her per se, it's Marvel when it comes to her books. With the exception of the Marvel, it seems like every single comic book she publishes gets canceled after like a year or just barely over a year of publishing. And heck, I even basically tweeted her about this, where her Hawkeye book should not have ended. And she agrees with that. It should not have ended, but it was continued with West Coast Avengers. That book got axed at the 10 issues is a joke. Let me think. Okay, so aside from Jen McKay, Matthew Robinson, who's another one? Matthew Rosenberg and Chip Zdarsky. They are good writers. I know Zdarsky is putting out a run for Daredevil is not very popular with a lot of people. I think it's one of his least. It's not as good as their works per se, but the guy has put out better works in the past. It is something that Teen Howard writes this Doctor Strange one shot because here's the strange thing about Teen Howard, because I think at the time when this one shot came, I think she was just wrapping her run for Excalibur. I think she had one book come out for her, and that was it. The only book she came out with before she left Marvel and over DC was Knights of X. I will eventually review that once I finish reviewing Excalibur. Yeah. So this will be pretty much everything of you. Next episode is going to be Is It Wrong to Girls Dungeon? Okay, next video. Bye.